Welcome to the quietest ones in the room with your host, Trey. I gotta say it, just the mere fact that you've clicked onto this video and you're listening to the sound of my voice, you by far are the most intelligent people on the face of the planet. So once again, thank you for joining me. Yes, I have to talk about this. It's been a long time coming. I have been burning to discuss this topic of quitting corporate America. It's always risky. But yes, I did do it before it became trendy. And I want to give you my story and share some things that I think are helpful for anyone who wants to go on this journey, some things that you should be mindful of. If I miss anything, hopefully I'll get to it. But if I miss it, leave something in the comment section and I will address it at a later date. So let's start here. I left corporate America 6 years ago. And the backstory to that is before I got into corporate America, I was a young, ambitious college student finishing a master's degree in business. And I had a tech startup, and I had so many visions of what my life could look like as a billionaire. And none of that came to pass, but the business was successful in its own right and ahead of its time. And I did that for a period in time until I got my first corporate job working for this company called Verizon. Yes, when it was hot, selling cell phones, I got into selling that product and I made really, really good money. But at some point, the money that I was making at Verizon wasn't enough. It was not cool for me to go into the retail store and have to deal with the customers who were getting on my damn nerves. Honestly, I take that back. It wasn't so much the customers, but it definitely happened to be my colleagues. Pains in the asses, for certain. The ego-driven retail sales professionals are the most annoying people I had known at that point in my life. So I was working at Verizon, and eventually I said to myself, man, there's this great opportunity in this space I didn't know much about called SaaS. And I was selling some Verizon phones at the time, and a customer put me on to a company in the Triangle, North Carolina area, and I applied and I got that job making more money than I was making at Verizon. And that is when I should have known that I had made a major mistake in my life. Because see, after getting into the corporate space, I still had that yearning to be what I should have always been, which is an entrepreneur. Yes, doing it on my own, having my team and I fight to achieve success. That should have been my focus the whole time. But no, that wasn't enough for me because honestly, with the tech startup that I did have, although I'd raised some money and was living off investor funds, it wasn't sustainable. And I needed to make more money at the time. So anyhow, I started in this corporate job selling IT products, services. And then eventually I go from that company, after I'd grown in that company, I'd gone from that company to a SaaS company. And then while I was at said SaaS company in the Triangle area, I really started to understand that this doesn't work for me. I remember sitting in a meeting, a one-on-one with my manager at the time when I was working at the SaaS company. And I said, you know what? I don't want to be another cog in the wheel. And he looked at me like, huh? You know, like a dog doesn't, huh? Like the dogs do. And he couldn't believe that I said it, but it was just me being honest. I didn't want to be another cog in the wheel, and I didn't believe that I had deserved based off of the qualifications that I had, and I had built up into that point that it made sense for me to be in the position that they thought I should be in. But I took it on anyway. And after a short stint there, I took on another opportunity that came along in a staffing space. And this was a nightmare of an opportunity. And a friend of mine had warned me before I got to this company, but I took it on anyway. And I learned as much as I possibly could about the staffing space. And after a horrible, nightmarish situation working for this company, I started my own staffing business along with my friends. And we were very successful starting out. Because the thing that people don't know about the staffing business, it's a low overhead business, and it's really about your ability to build personal relationships with many different people. And I've always been good at that. And I did just that. And I was able to build relationships with pharma companies in the area. And we built relationships with institutions in the area, tech companies, and so on and so on. And we became really successful. And before I get further into that part of the business life that I've been in for the last 6 years, which happened before COVID, I knew that corporate America was draining me dry down to my soul. I had come into contact with so many fake people, so many corny individuals, and just a few handful of decent people I came across in corporate America. Most of them were dirtbags, to be honest with you. And I don't mean it in the sense of these were people who were morally corrupt. Some of them were. But I just mean in the sense of playing the game of being kind when in all reality, everybody was looking for an opportunity to one-up someone and use someone to catapult their success. That's it. That's all it was. So I made a lot of connections with people that I thought were genuine friendships. And over time, you find out, no, these aren't your friends. These are just people you work with. But I was young. I didn't know this. But anyhow, yes, I quit corporate America. Anybody can do it. If you want to do it, you should do it. But I got to tell you the business side, because this is the good part. As I've mentioned, when I was in college, I had my first taste of starting my own business. But if I go way back to my teenage years, I used to rake yards for money, cut grass, all these different things I used to do to make money as a teen. But anyhow, getting my first taste of success of a business in college gave me that bug, and I never let it go. Even when I was in corporate America, I started additional businesses. I was working selling IT training, and then I started a mobile gas refueling business at the same time. And it worked for a little while, but I felt a little iffy about the business over some time, so I gave that up. And then I just kept working corporate America. But now that it's been almost 6 years of working for myself, and as I mentioned, I started the staffing business. I have a mobile detailing business, and I do YouTube. And I'm hoping that this grows as much as I envision it to, and I can continue to share the things that I like to share on this platform. But I've done many different things, and I have never been more fulfilled in my doing of work, putting my energies into something more than I have with business. Business has given me more of an opportunity to fulfill the desires and the goals that I have, that I've had for my life. But it hasn't been completely roses and glam, and it hasn't been perfect. And what I want to get into is just a little bit of some of the difficulties that I ran into. So when I had that nightmare situation, as I mentioned, at that staffing company, what happened was I didn't have much savings after that didn't work out. And I tried, no, actually, you know what? I was going to say I tried to go back to corporate America at the time, but I actually didn't. I was adamant about never going back to corporate. Religious life. I was a zealot when it came to never going back to corporate America at the time. And I didn't have much money to my name, but married, had a young daughter. And I remember going to my wife and I outlined what my plan was and how I was going to make money. So I started to implement that plan. And in my first month of business, this was 2018, I made $500. So that wasn't going to cut it. And then the next month, I made slightly a little bit more. And what I found is that my expectations of what I was going to make and what the reality was totally different. And so I had to really grind. I had to really work hard, use my skills to build the platform that allowed me to eventually make the kind of money that I wanted to make. But it wasn't easy. And for anyone who wants to get out of corporate America, you must understand that, hey, you may be that 1 in a million that once you start your business, you're off to the moon. And congratulations to you. Or you may be that person that's somewhere in between, or you may be that person who never, ever truly can make a substantial enough amount of money to sustain your life. And you have to decide what's most important to you. For some people, what's important to them is just the money. But for me, it was never just about the money. It was the freedom to control my life and my time and be able to spend it with the people that I enjoy spending it with. The amount of time that I've been able to spend with my family, my children in particular, is priceless. I couldn't have done it if I was still in corporate America. Traveling, meetings, getting burnt out, doing assignments that I don't want to do, coming home angry, not being able to pay attention to my kids. No, I'm glad I didn't have to go through that. And what I've learned, as well as how hard you have to work in business, is also the reality of things can be going really well, which for me, and I'll give a personal story, in staffing, it was like money was falling out of the sky. And this is kind of a beware in the world of business, especially if you have multiple things going on at one time. We have a tendency, and I'd done this, I became reliant on one thing primarily. Because see, what I'd done, I had employed other people for the other business, and the staffing business, obviously with that, you employ people, we had contractors and whatnot. And over time, we had a very large contract. And the money, as I mentioned, was just falling out the sky. It was like, it was never ending. And then eventually, as time had gone on, 5 years, things changed. The market changed. The competition changed. And there's a word in the space now, the people who are in the space understand it. And if you work corporate America, you've heard this word. It's called an MSP, Master Service Provider. That came along and our client was no longer able to operate with us in the same way in which they were before, and the money went to zero. And all that money that was just falling out of the sky at one time, and it just seemed like it would never end, and I was never going to run out of money, and I was going to be, and I had more money than everybody I knew. They didn't know it. I knew it, because I at least lived a modest lifestyle. But the money's gone. That contract is gone. But luckily, yes, I did have other things going on and have been able to sustain myself. But it's hurt. It's hurt. It hurt is what I'm trying to say. And even the way that I said it, it just shows how much it did hurt. It has been very difficult since losing that contract. Navigating in a space, knowing what you had and now what you don't have. But see, I'm reminded, especially when I was in college and I was growing that tech business at the time, and I was meeting many different intelligent, business-minded, driven individuals who wanted to be involved with my company. And the stories of not only theirs, but then people I'd meet as my customers at like Verizon, people who had money, and the stories they would tell me about all the money they had and how that money went away. And you have to navigate life differently. But each of those people I know found a way to bounce back and do better. Or even if they didn't get back to that standard of $1 million plus or whatever it was, they got to a place where they were content with their lives and happy about the dynamic of their relationships and how their relationship is and was with their children. And so that became the focal point. And I say that to say, money comes and goes. But if you are sick of corporate America and you want to do business for yourself, do it. But understand there are real challenges. There'll be times when you're at the mountaintop and something may happen and it just knocks you down a notch a little bit, but you can bounce back. But I also want to say this, over the years, 6 years now, that I haven't worked corporate America. I used to be really anti, how can anybody work for corporate America? But I get it. Everyone's different. If you are in corporate America and you enjoy it, stay there. Don't come over here. Don't come over to the gunslinging cowboy space, the rock star space. That's what it is over here. Don't come over here. Stay in the corporate space, in the comfortable situation, making your money, saving it up, put it into your 401k, do whatever you need to do. Do that. If you have a government job, whatever that is, if it's stable, do that. If business is not for you, don't jump into it. It's not for the weak. And just because you work corporate doesn't mean you're weak. And so there have been times when things have gotten difficult as an entrepreneur. I'm like, oh my gosh, did I make a mistake not staying in corporate? So you go back and forth, and there's even been times where I tried to get a job. But it's almost like when I tried to get some of these jobs, and I mean high-paying opportunities, it was like they could sniff out. And I lied. I didn't tell them, I was an entrepreneur. I was like, hey, I'm working for someone. But it's like they could sniff out, this guy's not going to put up with this environment. And there's something that happens to you when you leave corporate America and you get into a position of working for yourself. You are almost like cleansed of the political bullshit. And it becomes very difficult to play that game. Because now you're playing a different game. You're playing something new. Something that truly is exciting to you. And so you can't easily fit back into that space when there are so many people who are willing right out of college or who already work in corporate America to be yes men and yes women. They know exactly how to plug in. All the while, you're trying to figure out how to navigate a space that you used to be into. It's difficult. But I have so much knowledge about business, working for yourself, and all the things that you can do. And I would love to share them over time. And I haven't up to this point really because it's been a matter of, since things have changed with me and that money I mentioned earlier about how it was falling out of the sky. And now I'm in a situation where I'm kind of trying to figure my financial situation out. But I'm very blessed and I'm grateful that I made many of the decisions that I did when the money was falling out the sky so that it's not so stressful at this time. But it is difficult. And I think that's another thing to be honest about when you are in the midst of it in business and you're going through a storm. You got to keep it real with yourself. I'm not saying you go and tell everyone what you have going on, but keep it real with you. If you're in a tough situation, be honest about it and work towards climbing up out of it, whatever it takes. And understand that there are times when what you used to do in business, that door is closed, just like the corporate America door is closed. You must be willing to reinvent yourself. Maybe you started a business where you were making candles. Candle business is weak now, and now you need to figure out something else. So God is telling you to now begin doing project management. You don't know, but keep your mind open and keep your focus sharp. Another thing I want to say is the vices. See, corporate America is full of people who are drunks, who wait for the weekend to splurge out because of all that trauma that you experience in the office and working with people you really don't care about and don't care about you. And so if you carry that into business, it's going to be difficult to succeed. It's going to be very difficult. So I just want to mention that. I won't dig into that really deep, but I'll just say the vices, don't let them go if you got them. That will hinder you. And stay focused and sharp. But anyhow, I just wanted to say that I understand on YouTube you have a lot of people who are talking about how they quit corporate America. And the videos I see, it's fresh. I see people who just quit in the last month. It's been 6 years for me. I've been doing this. And I want to share how. I want to share how I built it up over time, what it took, the attitude, the skills. And those are the things that need to be talked about. It takes a lot of skills, a lot of different skills to make business work for you. And especially when you start bringing people on, it takes a lot of skills. And you can't do everything by yourself. But then also, I say that somewhat as true because there are times when it's best to just do business as a solopreneur, they call it, solopreneurship. And so that may be your lane as well. But figure it out for yourself. If you're tired of corporate America, just fucking quit it. I fucking quit corporate America. Anyhow, please share your thoughts in the comment section. Are you still in corporate America? Do you have your own business? Where are you at in your life? Are you at the top of the world as it comes to business? Are you struggling now in business? Are you the top in corporate America? Are you struggling in corporate? Let's get a conversation going. Let's learn from each other. But as always, please like, share, and subscribe. And until next time.